The Health Ministry has accepted a recommendation to ban the sale of loose cigarettes and increase the legal age of smoking from 18 to 25. There's no doubt this is being done to protect people from the danger of smoking. But in banning the sale of loose cigarettes, is the government discriminating in an unacceptable and even unethical way? And in raising the legal age of smoking, is it treating adults like infants who can't judge for themselves? My guests are the well-known Supreme Court lawyer Dushyant Dave, BJP spokesperson Sanjay Kaul, the well-known author and commentator Ruchir Joshi, and the advocacy officer for tobacco control at the Institute of Public Health, Pragati Hebar. Dushyant Dave, the Health Ministry has accepted a proposal to ban the sale of loose cigarettes. Now, given that loose cigarettes are mainly, if not only, bought by poor people who cannot afford to buy a full packet at one time, doesn't this ban target a particular type of smoker rather than all smokers, and therefore doesn't this ban look and sound discriminatory?
Yes, it does, and let me tell you why. Because, you know, equal protection of law is one of the most cherished rights under the Constitution of India, and I don't think the government or parliament for that matter can really enact a law which creates a classification within a class, because you certainly have a right of classification, but this is a classification within the class. And most of all, there is no really rational basis to do this, because the object sought to be achieved is completely defeated. You are really forcing the poor people to buy the packaged cigarettes at high cost rather than really contain the consumption of cigarettes. So I don't know, it's an extremely ill-conceived proposal, and I'm sure government will rethink before really bringing it into effect. Otherwise it will be held to be per se violative of Article 14 and discriminatory.
Now, before I go to the others, I want to put one more question to you, Dushyant Dave. In addition to being possibly violative of Article 14 of the Constitution and discriminatory, does it also breach the well-established principle that laws always have to be universal in their application as well as in their targeting? Clearly, this ban would not be universal in its targeting, and therefore it breaches that well-established principle. And does that therefore make it an unethical law?
Well, it makes it unfair. It doesn't make it unethical, but it certainly makes it unfair. And I must tell you one thing, that there are, Supreme Court, for example, has taken this law or examination of these kind of laws in, both ways. In many cases, Supreme Court has upheld, but there are a large number of cases where Supreme Court has struck down this kind of a classification within class, or this kind of a per se discriminatory executive or legislative action as being bad. And therefore, I have no doubt that this will be really seriously tested, and it would be subject to serious examination before the courts.
Sanjay Kaul, how do you defend this proposal that your government's health ministry has accepted, in which your government's health ministry says they will now bring to cabinet so that it can become law? It's been called discriminatory, violative of Article 14 of the Constitution, and unfair.
Before I get to the larger point, on the specifics that were just discussed, but I'm surprised that you have chosen to ignore the fact that cigarettes sold in packs are supposed to be sold in packs, and that when a retailer breaks it open and sells it per piece, that itself is not established practice. But be that as it may, because there's a lot of we can have a lot of discussions on that. There's nothing unfair or in legal terms about that.
Come to my point.
But yeah, which is what I'm trying to say is the larger point still remains that internationally the doctrine has shifted, and you will find no supporters on this case on your side of the argument today, because that's like arguing that the poor man has a right to die of cancer and that you are double discrimination.
You've just heard Dushyant Dave say it is violative of Article 14, it's discriminatory and it's unfair.
It is not.
Answer that.
No, it is not. No, it is not. It's not. It's a completely weird rendition of the point. I'm just trying to tell you this, that cigarettes are not sold loose. They are not sold loose. They are not supposed to be sold loose. So let's not get into that. This is a decision, a volition of the retailer. It is not supposed to be sold loose. no tobacco company is selling it loose, so let's not get there. It's wrong. It's being.
So you disagree with Dushyant Dave? Are you saying to me you disagree with Dushyant Dave?
Of course.
Okay, fine. You have a right to. You're dismissing Dushyant Dave's concerns out of hand.
My larger point. Yes, of course. My larger point is this: that the international doctrine is shifted towards these. The momentum is shifted towards these kind of things. And if you know that the European Union has also moved in the same direction.
But I'm not talking of the European Union. I'm talking about whether it's discriminatory, violative of Article 14 and unfair, and you're saying you disagree with Dushyant Dave. You have a right to disagree with him, but that is his view, this is yours. Let me bring in Ruchir Joshi. Ruchir Joshi, Soli Sorabji, the former Attorney General, said to me this morning, and I have his permission to quote him, that by targeting the poor rather than all smokers, this law penalizes poverty. Those were his exact words. And he added, it was therefore iniquitous. Would you agree with him?
Karan, we may have an argument in the sense that the poor have as much right to get cancer as the rich, and in the same way or at a cheaper rate. It may be a correct argument, but we're not going to win many friends with that, okay? Let's look at the other points over here. Loose cigarettes are an established practice in India, and they have been so for 70, 80, 90 years since cigarettes first began to be sold. So they may not be a legal practice, but they are an established practice. Okay, the young start smoking cigarettes singly with loose cigarettes from the pan ki dukan, but also the people who are trying to quit also stop buying packets and start buying cigarettes singly, first of all. Secondly, the whole business that, we're going to raise the age from 18 to 25. If, as an 18-year-old, you don't know that cigarettes are bad for you and can make a choice, it is an infantilizing of a young adult, which I find absolutely unacceptable. The rich-poor argument is one thing, but I find that the poor and their health is being attacked by the previous government and this government with their lack of environmental laws, the caste burgeoning in cities like Delhi, Bombay and Calcutta. That is what is killing the children. That is what is causing the lung cancer. The statistics on the cigarettes may be quite horrifying, but compared to what's happening to our water, to our air, and this government has dismantled all kinds of environmental legislation, and they're trying to attack tobacco as a kind of a showcase thing, which is ridiculous.
But stick narrowly to tobacco. Let's not spread ourselves so widely. Do you accept the point that this is iniquitous, which is Soli Sorabji's strongest, or do you think he's overstating it?
No, but tobacco is directly concerned with health, right? So let's stick to health. No, let's stick to health.
Well, no, I'm actually not talking about health. No, I'm not Ruchir Joshi, I'm not disputing the government's right to discourage smokers. I'm asking whether this is an ethical and correct way of discouraging them.
No, it's not.
Can I put that point to you as well, Pragati Hebar? You represent an organization who firmly believes that the government has a duty to discourage smokers, and many would agree with you. But is this way of discriminating, as you heard Dushyant Dave say, violating potentially Article 14 and doing it in an unfair way, the right way of discouraging smokers? Or do you think in this instance it doesn't matter whether it's the right or wrong way, just discourage them any way you can?
No, firstly I'd like to say that poor people are the ones who can least afford medical care. So they themselves can form a huge burden if they get addicted and finally end up with diseases. I'd also like to second with Mr. Sanjay Kaul, who stated that as per the law you cannot sell cigarettes in loose. So the cigarettes, as per the Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Act, it is illegal to sell it in loose in the first place. And not only that, almost 30 countries including Canada, China, Australia have already banned the sale of cigarettes in singles. So I think if the government takes this decision and plans to implement it, it is a step in the right direction.
And it doesn't matter to you that it will affect the poor who won't be able to buy full packets and therefore it will look discriminatory? That doesn't matter to you, Pragati Hebar?
Yeah, to that I'd like to say that quit rates are really low and people do have the intention of quitting, but hardly 10% people are able to quit. So this would be another prompt to help them quit tobacco. Rather than, you know, ending up spending so much money on buying an entire packet, they would think twice before doing that. So which would in a way help people to quit tobacco, which is a good thing, right?
Okay, let's come then to the second aspect of the changes the government proposes, Dushyant Dave, that is to do with raising the legal age of smoking. You heard a moment ago, in fact, Ruchir Joshi bring it up. Now, at the moment, the legal age for smoking, the legal age which you can buy tobacco products is 18. The government wants to raise it to 25. But given that you can vote at 18, given that in 6 states you can drink at 18 and in 12 others you can drink at 21, is there any fairness or logic in making people wait till 25 before they can smoke?
Let me say first and foremost, I mean, undoubtedly, you know, government would be well advised to discourage smoking. That's fair enough. Public health is important. It's part of governmental function. But the question is, do you really interfere with freedom of people in this fashion? Ultimately, every citizen has a right to live the way he wants to live. Is government going to really decide everything that we do? I mean, are they going to say tomorrow that you must sleep for 8 hours? I mean, what is it that government is going to really stop at? Frankly, I don't think that this kind of a measure really will work, because you are encouraging dishonesty. Now, let me come back to what Mr. Colin Pragati said. I don't think that there is any law which says that sale of cigarettes in loose condition is prohibited. I don't know of any law. The Cigarette and Tobacco Products Act of 2003 has no such provision, except that every pack must have a declaration that cigarette smoking is bad. You can't smoke cigarettes in public, and minimum age is 18 years. Now, that being the position, I think merely saying that it should be, now take for example Gutka. Are you going to say that you must buy Gutka in packet of 20 or 30 or 50 or 100? I mean, how are you going to decide all these things?
That's a very good point.
Gutka is far more dangerous than cigarette is.
Sanjay Kaur, I want to bring you in.
Gujarat today,
the
largest number of cancer cases are because of Gutka and tobacco.
Yeah, but come back. Let's come back. Let me stop you, Dushyant. We come back to cigarettes. You had a very good point to make, and I want to put that to Sanjay Kaur. There is a certain extension of this nanny state concept when the government says you can't smoke at 18, you can't smoke at 19, you have to wait till you're 25, even though you're considered adult enough to change the government at 18. Is it right and proper that you should be interfering in the rights and liberties of adults? And remember, they're adults, not children, in this way. You're infantilizing them.
No, I don't think so. I think you're stretching the point a little bit too much. Frankly, you know, somebody just argued that, you know, are you going to advise us how many hours to sleep? You could as well argue, do you really have to wear helmets when you don't want to wear helmets on the road? So why do we have that law? I mean, this is a convoluted way to look at this. The fact is, Karan, that no law can proceed unless there is public support for it. And in this case, you must understand that we are not an island. The correlation of cancer with smoking is an established fact.
Okay.
One can argue that other things can also cause cancers, but in the face of the sort of data we have, I think we are laboring this point. The thing to ask and thing to understand basically is the government direction in line with international thinking? Is it doing something which is abnormal? Is it going against the trend? And it is not. So, I mean, why suddenly become very sensitive to the idea that we want to protect our young from getting into habits which could possibly create situations like this, or for that matter, even Gutka.
Ruchir Joshi, there was a good point made there by Sanjay Kaur. No one objects when there's a law that says you have to wear helmets while driving a scooter. Most people don't want to. Clearly, in India, they don't. No one objects when you insist they have to wear safety belts, both in front and at the back. People don't like it, but they do it, and both could be judged to be an infringement of their rights. They could be judged to be infantilizing adults. Why then make a law that says the legal age is 25, not 18, such an infringement of rights?
Okay, then what I would say is let's just completely ban tobacco from this country. Because, you know, you're not saying to people you have to wear a seatbelt till they're 25 and then they can drive without seatbelts. Okay? You're basically saying you have to wear your seatbelt no matter how old you are, whether you're a man, woman, whether you're Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, whatever. Okay? And it's a fair point. So if we, and the other business, if you talk about international, keeping up with international standards, every European country allows smoking outside without any penalties. This government is planning to fine you 20,000 rupees on the streets. I mean, what, are they trying to fill the pockets of the cops with bribes? Are we completely crazy? We can't smoke outside hotels, we can't smoke on the sidewalk, we can't smoke in the parks.
Quite true.
I mean, they've really gone a bit nuts. Raising the age and the loose cigarettes is a different argument, okay, fine. Make it difficult, all other countries are raising the prices and taxes, we can argue that point. But the raising of the age and the banning the cigarettes from being smoked in public is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay,
it's got nothing to do with international law.
That's a very fair point.
I can smoke a cigarette in Paris or in London or in Berlin outside anytime.
Very quickly, Pragati Hebar, because we're running out of time.
You want to stick to international standards, please stick to them.
Why don't you, as an organization who's concerned about the impact of smoking on health, demand that it be banned altogether, that tobacco products simply not being made, and the government forsakes the 30,000 crore a year it gets from cigarette sales, and the government forsakes and not worries about the loss of employment? Why don't you take that stand, Pragati Hebar? That would be a more logical one, wouldn't it? A quick answer.
That would be the ideal situation, I do agree. But then till date, if you see, only Bhutan was the one place which tried to completely ban tobacco, and then they had to almost reconsider it because all the other neighboring countries do have tobacco available freely. So if India is the only one who bans everything and in all neighboring countries it is available, then it becomes an implementation challenge with things like smuggling and other things coming up. So rather, it is only something that can be done in a phased manner. So I'd like to rebut to one of the statements made that there is no provision under CODPA saying that you need to ban, sale of loose cigarettes is not allowed. Section 7 clearly mentions that sale of any product without a label is not legal. So when you remove a cigarette from its packet and give a single, there is no label or warning on that single stick.
I take your point. The law may require it, but it would still penalize the poor more than anyone else, and that obviously is not a major concern. I thank my four guests for joining me for this discussion. This is clearly one that is going to carry on for a while, because it's not simply a question of health. It's also a question of ethics, as well as a question of how you treat adults. And those are not easy issues to handle. My thanks to all four of you for joining me. There we end this particular episode.